Chapter 61 The white-haired girl Yamato, what the hell is that madman Kaido doing? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Locke stepped in front of Qilin, raising his reversed blade knife. Just as he was about to deliver the killing blow, a voice boomed from behind. Thunder gossip, a long, spiked mace slammed into Locke from behind. Locke whirled around, his knife colliding with the mace. Boom. The ground cracked, a powerful shockwave erupted, dust billowed, and arcs of black and red lightning crackled. Zotsap star, the buildings around them crumbled under the force of the blow. Everyone stared in shock at the newcomer. Yamato had appeared behind Locke just as he was about to finish off Qilin, launching the attack. Locke glared at the white-haired woman wielding the mace. The air current whipped her hair around her face, and he recognized her instantly. Yamato wasn't wearing a mask. Locke and Black Carbon Orochi recognized her right away. Boom. Another deafening blast, and the two warriors separated. Yamato casually rested the mace on her shoulders, fixing Locke with a gaze. Not bad, some serious strength you got there. Before Locke could reply, Black Carbon Orochi called out to Yamato from nearby. Yamato, weren't you locked up on Onigashima by Kaido? How did you escape? Yamato sneered at Hieten Orochi, replying with disgust. You pathetic excuse for a human being, I wouldn't waste my breath talking to you. You. Black Carbon Orochi pointed an accusing finger at Yamato, sputtering with rage. He couldn't deny it, he was despicable, but he couldn't just admit it in front of everyone. Locke glanced around, spotting Au, Tenguiyama feet, Xiaoju, and Xiaozi arriving on the scene. He knew Wano country's mobilization had alerted them. Au stared at Locke, sensing the overwhelming power from their clash, power beyond anything she could have imagined. Tenguiyama feet was stunned as well. He initially thought Locke was just a skilled swordsman, never suspecting such raw power. Xiao Shinobu, in full ninja gear, was seeing Locke for the first time. She too felt the immense force during the collision with Yamato. Xiaozi watched Locke with sparkling eyes, wringing her hands, her thoughts a mystery. Boom. Yamato's eyes glowed crimson, radiating an oppressive force that blanketed the entire area. Everyone struggled to breathe, and many warriors collapsed, overwhelmed by the pressure. Locke's eyes mirrored Yamato's glow, widening as an even greater pressure surged from him. The two crimson energies clashed, threatening to buckle everyone's knees. A few beads of sweat trickled down Yamato's forehead, a testament to Locke's superior aura. Yet her gaze intensified. Holy crap, that's powerful, Duokong exclaimed from a distance. Boom. A massive shockwave erupted, dissipating the two forces. The gust of wind swept past everyone. Au, Tenguiyama Hito, and the others gasped for air, their heads bowed, sweat dripped from their faces, proof of the immense pressure they had just endured. Yamato panted slightly, a few drops of sweat on her brow. She stared at Locke with burning intensity. Hey, how about we team up and take down Kaido? Yamato truly was her father's daughter, immediately trying to recruit Locke to fight him. Hieten Orochi was dumbfounded. He always wondered if Yamato was actually Kaido's kid. Yamato had always idolized Kazuki Oden, even aspiring to be the next Kazuki Oden. She even insisted she was a man. Yamato fought Kaido every chance she got, only to be taught a lesson by Kaido's club each time. Ultimately, he imprisoned her on Onigashima, slapping on a pair of cuffs to keep her in check. Yamato found the cuffs annoying, especially during fights. She glanced at her restraints, then at Locke. Hey, help me get these things off. It'll make taking down Kaido a whole lot easier, Yamato said to Locke without reservation, as if Kaido were her mortal enemy, always referring to him as someone she needs to fight away. Locke looked at Yamato silently. He could sense Kaido's arrival was imminent. Ghost Island, Kaido discovered Yamato had escaped and was furious. He learned she had gone to the flower capital, and quickly flew there. A dragon soared through the sky, Kaido's transformed state, speeding back to the capital. What the hell is my idiot kid doing in the flower capital? Don't tell me she's going after that guy. The Kaido dragon grumbled. Out at sea, a pirate ship was headed for the flower capital. Jean, one of the three disasters, was heading to the flower capital and murmured. I wonder why Boss Kaido told us to come back. What's all the commotion about? 10 pirate ships surrounded Jin. These were Onagashima's elite pirates. He was following Kaido's orders, bringing them to the flower capital. On the same ship heading to the flower capital, Quinn stood on the ship. He had received Jack's orders to bring Kaido, and then he quickly took the elite pirates to the flower capital. The Lincoln Six also rushed to the flower capital of Wano country from other places. They also took the elite pirates to the flower capital. The Navy and the other 3 sea emperors were immediately aware of such a big movement. Naval headquarters, in the marshal's office, Sengoku looked at Garp and said. Someone tell me, what is Kaido up to? Such a big movement, and Kaido's pulling the beast pirates' top fighters and elite pirates back to Wano country. Something major must be going down in Wano country. After he finished speaking, there was silence. Dad, do you think something happened to cause such a commotion in Wano? Marco said to Whitebeard. Whitebeard looked at the sea and thought to himself. Did something happen to Oden? Whitebeard didn't know that Kazuki Oden was dead. When Kazuki Oden died, Kaido had already ordered the news to be sealed in Wano country. In addition, the country of Wano has always been closed to the outside world, and the news inside cannot be spread to the outside world. Maybe it's that guy Oden, Whitebeard replied to Marco's words. Then are we going to help him? Marco said quickly. This is his own choice. We cannot interfere with his choice. I believe him. He is a powerful warrior after all. Whitebeard said with firm eyes. The redhead and the ant were also thinking about what that madman Kaido was up to. Hey, can I ask you something? Seeing that Locke ignored her, Yamato immediately said again. Shut up. Locke stared at her, sensing Kaido's aura, and Yamato was making too much noise next to him. You. Yamato angrily pointed at Locke, but couldn't say anything. Finally here, huh? Kaido. Locke looked at the sky and murmured. Chapter 62 Kaido arrives, domineering. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Seeing Locke crane his neck to stare at the sky, Yamato followed his gaze, equally curious. Suddenly, a dragon zipped through the air, coming right at them. Yamato recognized it instantly. It was her old man, Kaido. Kaido. Yamato hissed through gritted teeth, watching the dragon descend. Hearing Yamato's shout, Orochi snapped his head up, spotting Kaido's dragon form overhead. Everyone else craned their necks, their eyes widening at the sight of the enormous dragon. Au's pupils shrunk to pinpricks. That's Kaido? Au whispered, fear creeping into her voice. After all, in their minds, Kaido was unstoppable, and his current appearance was genuinely terrifying. It is Kaido. What's he doing here? Xiaoju muttered, anxiety clouding his face. Kaido's arrival made Xiaoju and the others jittery, while Orochi, buddy-buddy with Kaido, was stoked. Kaido hovered above Locke and the others, his massive dragon eyes locking onto Locke. Locke. Didn't expect you'd actually show up in Wano. Now that you're here, you're not leaving alive. You're way too dangerous to let roam free. Kaido boomed from above. Whoa. Kaido came all this way for this Locke guy. So, all this chaos in Wano, it's because of him. Tenryama Hitetsu stared at Locke, dumbfounded. He'd pegged Locke as just another swordsman, but apparently Kaido considered him a major threat. Then come down here and try to stop me. Locke shot back, staring up at Kaido. Heat breath. Kaido unleashed a torrent of scorching breath, a wave of fiery destruction aimed directly at Locke. Seeing the devastating attack hurtling toward them, Orochi bellowed in anger. Kaido. I'm down here, you idiot. Are you trying to roast me, too? Yamato's face was grim as she braced herself against the fiery blast. Even she recognized the danger. The others could only watch in terror as the inferno plunged from the sky. Kaido was well aware of Orochi and Yamato's presence below, but he also knew that a simple blast wasn't going to take down Locke. After all, Locke's power rivaled even the likes of Sengoku and Garp. Armament Haki. Emission. Locke coated his Wado Ikemonji with a power beyond even armament Haki, the formidable force of Conqueror's Haki, imbuing the blade with its might. This was a technique few could master, reserved for only the strongest. Itoriu Ia, Shurshur Sun Sun. With the Haki-infused blade, Locke unleashed a lightning-fast strike, sending a massive wave of sword energy hurtling toward the fiery onslaught. Boom. The sword energy sliced clean through Kaido's heat breath, its remaining force slamming into him. Kaido, bracing himself, coated his dragon claws with armament haki and swatted at the incoming energy. Boom. Another deafening explosion rocked the sky, unleashing shockwaves and searing heat. Buildings crumbled, debris rained down, and flames licked at the ground and structures. Nothing was spared. Kaido glanced at his massive black claw, a shallow cut now etched into its surface. His dragon eyes narrowed on Locke below, disbelief flashing through his mind. Conqueror's haki emission, that the opening clash between Locke and Kaido was over. The sheer power Locke had displayed left everyone around him speechless. So strong, if he teamed up with me, we could totally kick Kaido's butt, Yamato exclaimed, her eyes wide. Orochi watched Locke effortlessly dismantle Kaido's heat breath. He looked at Locke with shock before slithering away unnoticed. Just where did this guy come from? Hiyori muttered, never taking her eyes off Locke. This man, he could change the fate of Wano, Kiku said, a sense of wonder creeping into her voice. The others shared the same sentiment, their thoughts broken as they saw Locke rocket into the air, diving toward Kaido. Dragon Nest Strike. Locke's Wado Ikemonji moved with blinding speed, each slash ferocious, the blade carving through the very air. Wind Scythes. Kaido retaliated, unleashing a torrent of razor-sharp wind blades, each one a deadly whirlwind. The blades collided with Locke's sword energy in mid-air. Kaido plunged to the ground, his dragon claws, now imbued with haki, bearing down on Locke. Locke, seeing the attack, clenched his right fist, surrounding it with haki, and met the descending claw. Boom. A terrifying wave of black-red energy erupted, sending white shockwaves spiraling outward. Crack. Crack. The ground beneath Locke shattered, turning into a crater. Locke and Kaido collided in the center of the pit. The raw power unleashed sent Kiku, Au, and the others scrambling for safety. Unable to withstand the force of the impact, Yamato found a secure spot to observe the battle, Locke's incredible power redefining her perception of him. Boom. The two combatants separated, Kaido soaring back into the sky, where he prepared to unleash another heat breath. A blazing wave of destruction. Locke, seeing this, coated his right hand in swirling flames. Meeting the incoming inferno head-on. Boom. 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 The collision of the two infernos transformed the area into a sea of fire, the shockwaves tearing through everything, stones and debris flew everywhere, the buildings reduced to rubble. The force of the clash warped the very sky, forming a mushroom cloud, lightning crackling around its edges. Yamato, spotting a massive stone hurtling toward her, swung her club. Smash. The stone exploded into fragments, scattering across the ground. Yamato watched the ferocious battle, her gaze locked on Locke, a spark of admiration in her eyes. The stronger Locke became, the more excited she grew, the more she craved to join forces with him to defeat Kaido. Boom. 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 Another violent collision shook the heavens. Each clash between Locke and Kaido sent out devastating shockwaves, black and red lightning arcing through the air. The battle's impact resonated throughout the flower capital. As Locke and Kaido fought, over half the city was destroyed. Soru. Locke shot forward, closing the distance to Kaido, and slashed at his dragon head. Kaido swiftly raised his dragon claw to block the attack, both combatants shrouding themselves in haki. Their powers collided once again, erupting with black and red lightning. Boom. A thunderous explosion echoed through the air, unleashing a devastating energy storm. The storm swept across the flower capital, razing yet another section to the ground. Au and the others watched Locke's figure in the sky, their mouths agape. It's like Odin-sama all over again. That's how Odin-sama fought Kaido, Kinemon said, his eyes glued to Locke. This man, he's as strong as her father was, Hiyori said, her voice filled with awe. Locke's current battle mirrored the epic clash between Kazuki Odin and Kaido, a battle that had devastated the city. Suddenly, Kaido's colossal dragon form plummeted from the sky. Chapter 63, Flames Burn, Fight Burns. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Kaido descended from the sky, knowing that a continued fight with Locke would devastate Flower Capital and the surrounding towns. He reverted from his blue dragon form to his human appearance, tall and imposing, with flowing black hair, a pair of prominent dragon-like horns, a long, dragon-esque beard, and a dragon scale tattoo adorning his bare left arm. Kaido approached Locke, his gaze fixed on the man who was shaking the world. Locke was young, but undeniably powerful. "You didn't come to Wano just to wreck the place, did you? What's your real agenda? This isn't the right place for a brawl. If you want a fight, take it somewhere else," Kaido said, his voice low. Before Locke could answer, Yamato suddenly charged forward. "Kaido, you bastard! Today's the day I take you down!" Yamato roared, raising their mace and swinging it at Kaido. Thunder Bagua. Seeing Yamato attack, Kaido's anger flared. He swung his own massive mace, also called Hachiji. Thunder Bagua. Both maces crackled with lightning, Kaido's further enhanced with armament haki. Just like Yamato's, the two clashed with incredible speed, Kaido striking Yamato's body, and Yamato landing a blow on Kaido's head. Boom! The collision unleashed a shockwave, scattering dust and debris. Black and red lightning arced around them, and the ground beneath their feet crumbled. Yamato gritted their teeth, letting out a furious yell. Ha! Their strength surged, and Kaido, seeing Yamato's determination, roared back. Ha! Boom! Yamato was sent flying backward, crashing through the remains of buildings and finally slamming into a tree. Boom! Yamato, kneeling on one knee, struggled for breath, blood trickling from the corner of their mouth and sweat beading on their forehead. Kaido had drawn blood from Yamato with a single blow. The more Kaido looked at Yamato, the angrier he became. Despite their power, they were constantly defying him. He often wondered if Yamato was truly his child. Locke, having watched the entire exchange, finally spoke. "I don't have any agenda. I'm just here to travel." Kaido, of course, didn't believe Locke's claim for a second. "You think I'm an idiot? Do you really expect me to swallow that load of bull?" Kaido glared at Locke, clearly displeased. He believed Locke was mocking him, assuming he was oblivious to whatever schemes were brewing in Wano. Boom! Kaido unleashed a terrifying pressure, far exceeding Yamato's. The sky itself seemed to darken. The force bore down on Locke, who met it head-on. His eyes glowed red, and he exuded a pressure that rivaled Kaido's. The clash of these immense powers left Yamato reeling. Rocks and debris swirled through the air as a thick cloud of dust rose. Black and red lightning crackled through the area, and the overwhelming force reached even Xiao Zi and the others hiding in the distance, leaving them shaken. Amazing, so powerful. This is the power of true kings. I never imagined he was this strong. Xiao Zi exclaimed, watching the ominous lightning. The mere presence of Locke and Kaido was causing widespread destruction. The civilians, caught unaware, had no time to escape, and many were buried under the rubble. Boom! The colliding pressures finally dissipated, and Kaido focused his full attention on Locke. He resolved to eliminate Locke in Wano, unnerved by his immense power. Bang, 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 as the two faced off, the ground began to tremble, and the sound of approaching footsteps echoed in the distance. King, the lead performer of the three All-Stars, was rapidly approaching with a contingent of Beast Pirates elites. King found the Flower Capital not as a bustling city but as ruins. He could only imagine the war that had taken place there. King quickly arrived by Kaido's side. He saw the man confronting Kaido. He knew that man. He had seen this man's strength in his battle with the Navy. King took it seriously. He looked at Locke with a vigilant and serious face. "King, didn't expect you to arrive first. How many people did you bring this time?" Kaido looked at King beside him and said. "Boss Kaido, this time I brought 3,000 elites from the Beast Pirates from Onigashima," King quickly said to Kaido. 3,000. These people are not enough. Waiting for the people Queen and the others will bring will be enough, Kaido murmured softly. Kaido wanted to use the number of people to consume Locke's physical strength, and then join forces with the three All-Stars and the Lincoln Six to attack Locke. Although this will reduce the strength of the Beast Pirates, people can slowly recover, as long as they are the main force. Boss Kaido, I want to fight him. King looked at Locke with fiery eyes. He wanted to test how big the gap between himself and Locke was. Kaido looked at King, this subordinate second only to him, he is also very powerful, Kaido said. Be careful. I see. King said something, and then he slowly walked towards Locke. His hand pulled out the katana hanging on his waist. The katana was wrapped in a dark armed haki, whoosh. He was very fast, and he was in front of Locke in the blink of an eye, and swung out his knife. Locke looked at the knife that appeared in front of him, and he slashed it with the reverse blade knife in his hand, boom. Powerful air currents appeared in waves, and the dust on the ground was kicked up, bang bang bang. The two of them held the knives in their hands and kept swinging them at an alarming speed. They hit one place and then another, boom. A huge rock was cut open by King with a knife, and then Locke chopped off his head with a knife, boom. King quickly waved his knife to block, and the two knives sparked. King's eyes looked at Locke, who was close in front of him. Locke's figure retreated, and then a huge sword energy rushed towards King. In addition to being wrapped in armed haki, King's sword was also wrapped in a layer of flame. King slashed out with his sword, and a flaming sword light appeared. Boom! A cloud of white smoke blocked the two people's sight, but they could both see each other, and their sex was domineering. Chapter 64. 3 disasters gather together, and the 6 volleys arrive. You are listening at novelfull.audio. A cloud of white smoke dissipated, leaving Locke and Jin standing close, sizing each other up. Jin was a master swordsman. His body radiated heat, and he was tall, strong, and well-proportioned. He was completely covered in dark clothing, including his face, and sported a pair of black, feathered wings. Kaido knew Jin was no match for Locke, who hadn't even used his full power. Even Kaido himself might not be able to defeat Locke. Just then, Yamato arrived, running from a distance. Despite the dust on her face and the tears in her clothes, she gripped her mace, determined to fight Kaido. Hey, team up with me to take down Kaido. Yamato asked Locke again to help her fight her old man. Hearing Yamato, Locke glanced at her, then walked over to her. Jin wasn't surprised by Yamato's words. Yamato, you're my son, daughter. Kaido boomed. You're destined to be the general of Wano country. Come to me. Forget it. Yamato spat. I'm not your kid, Kaido. I'm Kazuki Oden. You. Kaido's eyes bulged with anger as he glared at Yamato. Yamato ignored him, focusing on Locke as he approached. Locke reached out and touched Yamato. Startled, Yamato jumped back, clutching her mace and glaring at him. What are you doing? Gonna help you take off those cuffs. Locke said. He planned to break Yamato's sea-stone handcuffs so she could fight Kaido freely. Yamato stood still as Locke's hand closed around hers. A strange, electric sensation shot through her, leaving her slightly trembling. Locke wrapped his hand in haki, shattered the cuffs, and tossed them aside. This has been modified. The handcuffs did not explode, and there was no explosion setting when leaving Ghost Island. Seeing her hands were now free, Yamato pointed her mace at Kaido. Those cuffs you slapped on me are gone. She declared. Get ready for a beatdown. Kaido was past being angry at Yamato's defiance. Whether she had cuffs or not was irrelevant. As long as she was in Wano, he could cuff her anytime. Bang, 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 star. Another set of heavy footsteps echoed closer. Quinn and Jack, 2 of the 3 All-Stars, marched to the front, followed by their elite pirate squads. Suddenly, Kaido was backed by a force of over 6,000. Boss Kaido. Quinn and Jack greeted him, and Kaido nodded in acknowledgement. Yamato's face turned grim as she took in the 3 All-Stars and the massive beast pirates crew. Bang, 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 star. More heavy footsteps pounded in from the east. The Tobi Rappo had arrived with their beast pirates units, converging on the flower capital. With the Tobi Rappo came Black Orochi and his Wano country samurai. The area was now packed with at least 30,000 warriors. Drake, the Navy's undercover agent among the Tobi Rappo, recognized Locke and his pupils dilated. Didn't expect him to be here. He thought. Kaido now had 30,000 people at his back, arrayed against Locke and Yamato. a gust of wind blew between the two sides, swirling dust and pebbles into the air. Thunder Bagua. Flame Emperor. Laser Cannon. Vulcan's Wrath. Thunder Bagua, Kaido, the All-Stars, and the Tobi Roppo unleashed a combined attack on Locke as Locke and Yamato charged towards them. Bang, 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 star, explosions ripped through the area as the energy storm tore apart the ground, forming a massive, swirling cloud in the sky. Boom, star, meteors began to streak across the sky, burning with fiery trails as they plummeted towards the earth. Bang. Bang, bang, star, the earth was once again devastated, with enormous craters everywhere. Thousands of beast pirates and Wano samurai were caught in the meteor strike, suffering thousands of casualties. One flaming meteor hurtled towards Jack. He coated his fist in haki and punched it head-on. Boom, the meteor shattered, but flames still licked the ground, causing white smoke to rise from Jack's blackened hand. Whizzing, star, Jin and Qin appeared before Locke, each throwing a punch. Locke swept his reverse blade katana, sending a wave of flaming sword energy towards them. Boom, star, they stumbled back, then transformed, becoming a pteranodon and a brachiosaurus. Bang, 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 star, Kaido and Yamato clashed, their maces meeting with a resounding crackle of black and red lightning. Magnetic, star. Yamato was knocked backward as Jack suddenly intercepted her, throwing a punch. She quickly coated her arm in haki and met his blow. Boom, star. A shockwave erupted from their fists, and Jack unleashed another punch. Yamato parried with her other hand. Bang, 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 star. The two grappled briefly as Kaido and the Tobi Roppo attacked Locke from behind. Sensing the attack, Locke conjured a wall of flames behind him. Fire wall. Boom, star. The attacks were blocked, and Black Maria, one of the Tobi Roppo, appeared 5 meters in front of Locke. Locke chuckled, his figure blurring into motion, too fast for Black Maria to react. Hamatora. Breaking path, rush, whoosh, star. A shockwave shot from Locke's fingertip, piercing through Black Maria's heart. Puff, star. Blood sprayed as Black Maria looked down in disbelief, then collapsed. One of the Tobi Roppo was down. Locke whirled and slashed at Jin and Qin as they charged. Quick draw cut, a flaming arc of energy flew towards them. Jin and Qin transformed into their beast forms, deflecting the blow. Thunder Bagua. Kaido's mace slammed down behind Locke. Locke ducked, swung his blade, and collided with Kaido's weapon. Boom, star. Shockwaves and white smoke billowed as the black lightning energy crackled again. Seeing their opportunity, the remaining Tobi Roppo charged Locke from behind. Chapter 65 Sword Chi Domain, Fire Qilin. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Sword Chi Domain. Locke thought. Instantly, a powerful aura of sword energy erupted around him, slicing through the sky in every direction. The Flying Six were immediately hit, sword energy slicing at every inch of their bodies and lodging itself in their wounds. One of the original 6 was down, leaving 5 in the air. Dex. Drake and the others quickly reinforced their bodies with armament haki as the sword energy barraged them. Kaido and his crew also coated themselves in haki. Clang, clang. The sound of metal on metal echoed as the sword energy relentlessly tore through everything. Beast pirate grunts and Wano samurai caught in the blast were instantly cut down. Splat, splat. Aya. The beast pirates and samurai screamed, collapsing in the crossfire of sword energy. Kaido withstood the onslaught, scowling as he watched the air itself being shredded. Instant flash. Locke's reverse blade sword crackled with armament haki and flames, and he slashed at Qin, in his brachiosaurus form. Quin's tail whipped around, infused with haki, colliding with the flaming blade. Boom. The force created a shockwave, and a few drops of blood splattered. Quin's tail reeked of burning flesh, and white smoke curled from the wound. The injury healed almost instantly. Quin's brachiosaurus form granted him incredible resilience, vitality, and defense. The sword energy field dissipated. The remaining beast pirates and samurai lay scattered on the ground. The Flying Six now bore multiple sword wounds. Thunder Bagua. Nearby, Yamato swung her club, slamming it into Jack. Jack parried with his two sickle-shaped weapons, boom. A shockwave rippled outwards, pulverizing the ground beneath them. Flame Emperor. Jin conjured fireballs from the flames engulfing his body and hurled them at Locke. Rising Dragon Flash. Locke swung his reverse blade sword upwards, bracing the blade with his free hand, unleashing a ferocious arc of sword energy. The energy blast tore through the fireballs, and the remaining force hurtled toward Jin. Jin swiftly drew his katana, reinforcing the blade with haki, and slashed at the incoming attack, boom. Rings of white smoke billowed, creating gusts of wind and kicking up debris. As the smoke cleared, a massive fist loomed before Jin's eyes. Reacting instantly, Jin threw a punch of his own. 10-nail fist barrage. Bang, bang, bang. As Jin's fist connected with Locke's, he felt the impact of 10 separate blows, his right fist absorbing 10 attacks. Their fists collided in mid-air, creating gusts of wind and causing the ground to crumble. Jin lashed out with a kick, but Locke vanished. Tiger Hunt. 30-nail fist barrage. Locke's right hand blazed with haki and flames, and he hammered it into Jin's stomach, boom. Jin rocketed backwards, a series of impacts echoing from his gut. 30 blows in all, each one packing devastating power. Splat. Spitting out a mouthful of blood, Jin crashed into the ruins, sending up a cloud of dust. In the haze, Jin looked up at Locke and murmured, "Is this the difference in power?" Kaido, seeing Jin get blasted away, swung his club at Locke. The club surged with power, generating gale force winds. Locke braced his reverse blade sword, infused with haki, and met Kaido's attack head-on, boom. Black and red lightning crackled from the point of impact, sending out a concussive blast that shattered the ground. Thunder Bagua. Yamato's voice boomed from behind Kaido. She was now behind Kaido, her mace wreathed in haki and lightning. Kaido sensed Yamato's attack. He couldn't dodge. Locke's sword was locked in place. If he broke free, Locke would definitely cut him down, boom. The mace slammed into Kaido's back. A layer of pitch-black haki reinforced his back, cushioning the blow. Despite the haki, Yamato's attack was agonizing. Kaido gritted his teeth, brow furrowed. Seeing that her attack didn't draw blood, Yamato prepared to strike again. Qilin and Jack, witnessing Yamato's assault on Kaido, charged forward to intercept her next blow, boom. A deafening crash echoed behind Kaido, but this time, it was Jack and Qilin who absorbed the impact. The force emanated behind Kaido as Yamato's mace collided with Qilin and Jack. The ground beneath the three fighters crumbled. The sheer intensity of the battle awed the Flying Six and Orochi. Unbelievable. Just how strong is Locke? Au gasped, boom. The combatants scattered, and Locke burst into flames, pointing towards the sky. Fire Qilin. Boom. A Qilin formed from pure flame materialized in the sky. Composed entirely of blazing heat, the Qilin plunged downwards. Everyone gaped at the fiery beast. Damn it! That bastard! Qilin and Jack cursed, reinforcing their bodies with armament haki. Au and the others in the distance shielded their eyes as the fire Qilin descended, boom. Boom. A deafening roar erupted as scorching flames engulfed the flower capital. The city was a blazing inferno, fire consuming everything. The heat waves washed over the city, and it was devastated once more. As the storm of energy subsided, the flower capital resembled a fiery hell, the ground and air ablaze. Kaido and his crew were covered in dark haki, white smoke rising from their bodies, scorched in several places. Jack, Qilin, and Jin knelt, exhausted, white smoke pouring from their burns. Yamato was no better. The corpses of beast pirates and samurai littered the ground. Their bodies were charred black, smoking, utterly burned. Orochi, too, was critically injured. His body was burned beyond recognition, and the stench of his burnt flesh was indescribable. Hot white smoke rose from the ground in the flower capital. Rocks and trees had been scorched. Locke's fire Qilin attack had caused massive devastation, once again ravaging the flower capital. Chapter 66. The battle is over and the territory is divided. You are listening at novelfull.audio. That son of a bitch. Doesn't he realize I'm standing right here? Yamato glared at Locke, seething. Kaido studied Locke, his gaze intense. He understood that if this fight continued, the Tobi Roppo and the All-Stars wouldn't be the only ones to fall, he might go down with them. The Beast Pirates' elite forces had been wiped out, not to mention the Wano samurai. King, Queen, and Jack stared at Locke, their faces etched with horror. If they hadn't coated themselves in armament haki before the Fire Qilin's attack, they'd be in far worse shape than sporting scorched bodies and plumes of white smoke. Even the Tobi Roppo, shielded by their own armament haki, were now sprawled on the ground, wisps of smoke rising from their charred forms. The stench of burnt flesh mingled with the metallic tang of blood. The mountaintop was in ruins, ravaged by the Fire Qilin's shockwave. White smoke billowed, clinging to blackened rocks. A pile of smoldering rubble shifted, and a hand emerged, pushing aside the debris. Cough, cough, a woman choked, her face masked in dust. Purple-haired Kamurasaki's kimono was riddled with burns, exposing patches of bare skin. Her eyes were glued to the spot where the Fire Qilin had landed, where Locke and Kaido were locked in combat. Wano country will never be the same after today, Kamurasaki whispered, her gaze fixed on Locke. Kaido's reign is over. That blade, it'll be put to better use in his hands, Tengyama Hitetsu muttered, his upper body bare, his clothes reduced to ashes. Burns covered his torso, weeping blood. He'd shielded Toko from the worst of the Fire Qilin's blast. The girl's eyes were swollen with tears, her small hands gripped Hitetsu's pant leg. Even protected by his body, faint burns marked her face. Hitetsu stroked Toko's head, his eyes mirroring Kamurasaki's focus on Locke. Hiyori, Kiku, and the others stood in stunned silence, their gazes fixed on the fiery battlefield. Locke and Kaido locked eyes across the ravaged landscape. What do you want? Kaido rumbled, his voice laced with desperation. What are your terms to end this? That he knew this was his only option. His all-stars were on the verge of collapse. Locke considered Kaido's offer, weighing his options. Just then, a familiar chime echoed in his mind. Ding, special mission issued, divide and conquer Wano. Reward, unknown. The system's voice was clear. Divide the territory of Wano. He turned his gaze back to Kaido. I want control of Kuri, Udon, and Ringo. And half the flower capital. Kaido recoiled. Locke was demanding a significant chunk of his territory. That's impossible. Then let's keep fighting, Locke retorted, flames erupting around him. Fine. I agree. Kaido snapped, desperate to avoid another attack. Hey! Why don't you just take Kaido down? Yamato shouted, overhearing the exchange, but her words fell on deaf ears. Locke turned and left. As he departed, Kaido visibly exhaled in relief, while Yamato glared at Kaido before chasing after Locke. Ding, congratulations. Mission complete. Reward, 3,000 Konoha Chunin. Locke's only reaction to the reward was a slight surprise before he fully exited the flower capital. These Konoha Chunin were useless in this world, nothing more than cannon fodder. With Locke and Kaido's agreement, Wano was in turmoil, especially in the territories now under Locke's control. People wondered what kind of man could force Kaido to surrender land. In the battle, Kaido had lost 15,000 elite beast pirates and 20,000 Wano samurai, along with a member of the Tobi Roppo. The All-Stars were critically injured, and even Kaido himself had sustained damage. The flower capital was in ruins, now being rebuilt. Locke returned to this place, this time as its ruler. His pirate flag and wanted poster were prominently displayed throughout the territory. Within a week, Locke's name was known throughout Wano. He was the man who had dealt a devastating blow to Kaido and the beast pirates, the man who had forced Kaido to cede territory. People flocked to Kuri. Hiyori, Kiku, and others also made their way there. A temporary palace was erected in Kuri, guarded by 3,000 Konoha ninjas, each proudly wearing the Konoha forehead protector. Locke held court inside. He had spent the last week abolishing Kaido's oppressive system, cracking down on criminals, dismantling corrupt organizations, and restoring production. The people of Kuri and the surrounding territories sang Locke's praises. Hiyori, Kiku, and the others marveled at the bustling atmosphere of Kuri. While it wasn't opulent, they could see that the people were genuinely happy. Is this really Kuri? Hiyori breathed, astonished. It was a far cry from the desolate, oppressed place it once was, free from the tyranny of Kaido's samurai. Toko and Hitetsu gazed at the scene on the street. While shocked, they couldn't help but feel joy. Locke wasn't exploiting them like Kaido, and the fact that everything here was better than before filled them with hope. Boom, star. Fire style, fireball jutsu. Water style, water dragon jutsu. Bang, 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 star. A fireball and a water dragon hurtled toward a white-haired figure. Yamato saw these people spewing fire and water from their mouths, especially the water. It was so bizarre. She gripped her kanabo, coating it in armament haki. Boom, star. A cloud of fire and water vapor erupted as Yamato charged towards the two Konoha Chunin, delivering a powerful punch to each, sending them flying. Boom, star. Two figures crashed to the ground. Beside them lay another Konoha Chunin, another victim of Yamato's initial assault. Drawn by the sound of fighting, a crowd of figures swiftly converged on the scene. Within moments, 300 Konoha Chunin had gathered, forming hand seals and unleashing a barrage of ninjutsu. Yamato coated her kanabo in armament haki, swinging with all her might to deflect the incoming attacks. Boom, star. Another wave of fire, water vapor, and earth fragments exploded outward. Yamato's eyes narrowed. A figure was approaching. Chapter 67. 3 years have passed, and the three brothers have gone to sea one after another. You are listening at novelfull.audio. A man approached, a black dragon in a dark cloak following close behind. A knife with a strange, bright red aura hung at his hip, the man strikingly handsome, his black eyes pulling you in like a black hole. Yamato stared at him. This Locke had brought massive changes to Wano country. The entire nation had been transformed because of him. Why share territory with Kaido? Yamato asked Locke. Wouldn't it be better to just kick him to the curb? Locke responded to her question, what I do is none of your business. You have no right to butt in. You. Yamato glared at Locke, speechless with anger. But he was right. She couldn't control his actions. Fine, if I can't control you, then I'll do something to you. Yamato's eyes burned with determination. She'd wanted to fight Locke for a while now. Thunder Bagua. Yamato gripped her mace with both hands, coating it in lightning-laced armament haki. The mace slammed toward Locke with incredible force and a powerful gust of wind. Locke glanced at the incoming mace and casually raised his hand. Wrapping it in armament haki, he stopped Yamato's attack with a single hand. Boom. Boom. A shockwave blasted outwards, black and red lightning crackling around them, instantly collapsing the ground beneath their feet. Locke held the mace inches above his head, his right hand gripping it tight. They locked eyes. Sweat dripped down Yamato's forehead as she gritted her teeth, but no matter how hard she pushed, she couldn't break Locke's hold. Boom. Yamato was sent flying backward, skidding across the ground and digging a deep trench. She dug the mace into the dirt to slow her descent. After sliding for dozens of feet, Yamato regained her footing and glared at Locke. Locke stared back, a massive wave of pressure rolling off of him. His eyes glowed red. Yamato's eyes flared red in response, two powerful pressures colliding. But this time was different. This time, Locke's full force slammed into her. Yamato couldn't withstand it. Her pressure shattered instantly, overwhelmed by Locke's. Cold sweat poured down Yamato's face. She grit her teeth, using every ounce of her will to stay standing. You're too weak. Locke said to Yamato. He turned and walked away, his back and cloak disappearing from her sight. Yamato felt the pressure vanish. She stared at the space where Locke had stood. I will defeat you. Yamato shouted after him. Her target had shifted. The goal of defeating Kaido had been replaced by Locke. Yamato left as well, but she didn't leave Kuri. Kaido kept the events in Wano country under wraps. News of what occurred there was not spread elsewhere. The Marines and others believed Locke had vanished without a trace. 7 days. Still no word from Locke. Fleet Admiral Sengoku asked Garp and the other officers. It's like he disappeared into thin air. Nobody knows where he went. Tsuru added from the side. I have this nagging feeling that something's brewing, but I can't put my finger on it. Sengoku frowned. As long as Locke's gone, things will be quiet for a while, Garp said from beside him. Let's hope so. Sengoku looked out the window. Locke had been missing for 7 days. Some people believed the Navy had secretly captured him, while others thought he was orchestrating something earth-shattering. Various theories circulated around the world. Only those who knew Locke truly knew what he might be up to. Dressrosa, Doflamingo stared at the newspaper in his hand. He was silent for a moment, then let out his signature laugh. Fa-fa-few-few. Doflamingo laughed maniacally, then, he tore the newspaper into pieces and left, continuing his work on whatever Locke had tasked him with. Alabasta, Princess Vivi and Nami read the newspapers, both deeply worried about what might have happened to Locke. Locke must be working on something important, that's why he's out of the public eye, Nami said with conviction. I agree. Something must be keeping him busy, Vivi added. Still, they both looked outside with worried expressions. They hadn't been idle since Locke's departure. Nami relentlessly practiced her navigation skills, now able to use the weather stick Locke gave her with ease. During Locke's absence, she'd also picked up some fighting techniques, enough to defend herself from ordinary pirates. Princess Vivi was no different. She and Nami studied together. She also learned sailing skills, and they both worked on improving their cooking. Kokoyashi village, Nojiko and Belmere also looked at the newspaper in their hands. Mother and daughter gazed at Locke's photo, worry etched on their faces. Locke, something must be holding you up. You're so strong. Belmere prayed silently. Nojiko felt the same. She'd been studying navigation since Locke left. She and her mother were both learning, both hoping to be Locke's navigator when he returned. Belmere felt a strange warmth blooming in her heart. It was a very peculiar feeling, and her heart raced whenever she thought of Locke. She thought about him every night, even in her sleep. She hadn't wanted to admit it, but she couldn't deny it any longer. She was in love with Locke. The realization shocked her, but she wouldn't hide her feelings any longer. She planned to pursue her love. The same scene played out in a bar in Fusha village. Makino stared at the newspaper in a daze. She slapped her cheeks and muttered, "What's wrong with me?" Marine headquarters. Tashigi gazed out at the sea, feeling confused and irritated. What's wrong with me? He's my enemy. Tashigi is angry. Only I get to arrest him. Tashigi shouted at the ocean, frustrated. Sabaody Archipelago, inside Shaki's rip-off bar, Rayleigh, Shaki, and Stella sat together. You think that kid ran off to Wano country? Rayleigh asked, taking a sip of wine. It's a possibility, considering who we're talking about, Shaki replied, puffing on her cigarette. Fishman Island, inside a huge room in the Ryugu Palace, a mermaid with a pink tail looked at the newspaper in front of her and murmured softly. Lord Locke, I've been hearing a lot of strange noises lately. These voices seem to say that someone will appear who will bring chaos to the world. Shirahoshi whispered, Wano country, Kuri, boom. A figure went flying. Yamato had been sent flying again. These days, Locke made her fly every day. I'll be back tomorrow. Yamato shouted toward the spot where Locke had vanished. Time passed. 3 years went by. Portgas D. Ace, son of the pirate king Gold, Roger, had been at sea for 3 years. In that time, the 3 brothers had set sail one after another. Ace quickly rose to fame, earning the moniker Fire Fist Ace. Determined to surpass Locke, Ace challenged Whitebeard, one of the 4 emperors. A man wearing a cowboy hat approached the Yonko Whitebeard. I'm here to challenge you today, Ace announced, looking up at Whitebeard. If you want to challenge Pops, you'll have to get through me first. Jinbe stood up and said. Ace stared at the strange creature before him, skipped the pleasantries, and launched a punch at Jinbe. Fire Fist. Chapter 68. 3 years have come. Locke and Yamato go to sea. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Wow, 3 years already. Time flies. I've been landlocked for too long. I bet I've missed some crazy stuff. Locke, cloaked and with his reverse blade knife at his hip, watched cherry blossoms drift past and sighed. His reputation in Wano had exploded during those 3 years. People from Kaido's own territory were seeking him out. genuine supporters through and through. Locke hadn't been idle either. He'd been building rapport, working alongside them in the fields, just shooting the breeze. His area had started to truly thrive, people even forming their own defense force. They called themselves Lord Locke's warriors. That army had swelled to around 3,000. Locke checked them out himself and found their loyalty was absolute. His image in Wano was the polar opposite of Kaido's. He was good, Kaido was bad. His territory was a haven, while Kaido's was a chaotic dump. Everyone in Kaido's territory wanted to defect, but Kaido strong-armed many of them into staying. Xiao Zi and the others had already bolted for Locke's territory. Done with Kaido, Xiao Zi and Kiku tried to enlist Locke's help to restore their country, but he refused. They had to shelve that conversation for the time being. Au and Tengyama Hitetsu also approached Locke, presenting him with the second generation Kitetsu, saying only a blade like that was worthy of him. Locke accepted the sword and chatted with them. While it wasn't as relaxed as their first meeting, Au was still stoked. Over the past 3 years, Locke had maxed out his 3 types of haki, and his 6 styles and other techniques had improved dramatically. His daily sign-up rewards had been underwhelming, mostly just adding to his army of cannon fodder. Now he had almost 5,000 of them. Add the 3,000 volunteer samurai, and his power in Wano was at 8,000. Meanwhile, out at sea, Fire Fist Ace had become Whitebeard's son, and rookie Straw Hat Luffy and the other supernovas were making waves. Luffy, Ace, and Sabo's journeys had all been altered by Locke's presence. Aside from Nami and Robin, who didn't join the crew, Zoro and Sanji were still in the mix. He did pick up a navigator named Nojiko, though. Luffy met Nojiko in Kokoyashi village, and they hit it off. When she learned Luffy was Locke's little brother, she agreed to be his navigator. Her condition was that she might ditch Luffy if she ever ran into Locke. Luffy agreed. Luffy's overall trajectory was unchanged, just with some different faces along the way. In Alabasta, he became good friends with Vivi and Nami thanks to Nojiko. Luffy's bounty wasn't huge, but his strength had gone through the roof. Trying to catch up with Locke, Ace, and Sabo, he'd actually asked Garp to train him. Garp, thinking Luffy was going to join the Marines, happily agreed. Then, a year later, Luffy went pirate. Garp was livid and went after Luffy himself. Luffy definitely got an earful, but Garp respected his grandson's choice, even if he was a bit bummed and proud at the same time. Bummed that Luffy was a pirate, proud that he'd become so strong. Ace's path remained mostly the same. He still became Whitebeard's son, but he never set foot in Wano. Now his only goal was to surpass Locke. Sabo ran into Dragon of the Revolutionary Army due to some chance encounter. After seeing some of the things Dragon showed him, Sabo joined the revolutionaries. Locke's arrival had changed all 3 brothers, and they'd all grown stronger because of it. Doflamingo hadn't been idle either. He was building up his power in the shadows, his numbers reaching 30,000. Just a heads up, I'm changing some numbers. Population's higher. Don't stick to the original. Also, I'm not sticking to the protagonist's personal details. Things will get more interesting. I'm modifying the timeline, plot, and characters. Don't expect the original story. The Navy had also been recruiting like crazy, reaching 100 million strong. They were spread all over the world, some of the old guard retiring or dying in clashes with pirates. That boost in numbers strengthened the Navy, and their elite ranks were filling out, making up for the losses from that last fight with Locke. Navy headquarters had also brought in new admirals, Fujitora and Ryakujiu, but they were a secret even from the other 3 admirals. They were the Navy's ace in the hole, a weapon to use against the Yonko and Locke. Of course, no one knew how strong Locke had become in those 3 years. Akainu, Hikiji, and Kizaru had been training non-stop. Their physical skills and haki had improved massively, and they had a better handle on their devil fruit powers. Navy officers Momonosuke and Gion had Locke in their sights. They'd been training like mad for 3 years, obsessed almost. Next time they saw Locke, they wouldn't be on the ground clutching their stomachs. They both planned to surprise Locke with their improvements. Their preparations were all for Locke, who'd vanished for 3 years. Everyone knew that when Locke reappeared, it would be a cataclysm. Locke was planning to leave Wano today. He wanted to see what he'd been missing. Just as he was about to leave, a white-haired girl appeared. Yamato had been looking for Locke for 3 years. She challenged him to a duel every day, but he beat her every time. Over those 3 years, she'd gotten closer to Locke. She'd developed feelings for him that were hard to describe. "Locke, you're leaving?" Yamato's voice came from behind him, her eyes were full of reluctance and something else, something complex. "Yeah. Haven't been out in 3 years. Gotta see what's happening," Locke said, meeting Yamato's gaze. Yamato blushed, a rare sight. She looked back at Locke and said, "I want to go with you. I want to see the outside world too." Locke looked at her. He couldn't deny he had feelings for her, not after seeing her every day for 3 years. "Okay," Locke said. Yamato's face lit up, happiness flooding her heart. The two of them boarded the pirate ship. It hadn't sailed in 3 years, but it was setting out to sea again. Chapter 69 Momonosuke falls into fear. Yamato is angry. You are listening at novelfull.audio. A pirate ship cut through the sea, carrying only 2 souls, a girl with hair as white as snow and a boy with raven locks. "Locke, where are we headed?" Yamato asked, turning to Locke who stood beside her. Locke gazed out at the endless expanse of ocean. "Let's find an island, any island, and go there." Unseen by them, a small boat sped toward them. Aboard the little vessel was a child dressed as a warrior from Wano. The top of his head was shaved, save for a traditional bun at the back. He wore a pink kimono and wooden geta sandals. Alongside him were 2 others. One, a man with a neatly tied black bun and a goatee, wore a light kimono split down the middle, black and white on the left, orange on the right. 2 swords, their scabbards decorated with flame-like patterns, rested at his side. The other was a hulking, ungainly man with shoulder-length, unkempt hair that resembled a brush, complete with shaggy bangs. He had half-moon-shaped eyes, a prominent nose, thick lips, fair skin, and rosy cheeks. His face held a striking clarity. He was dressed in a traditional waistcoat and robe. These 3, master and servants, sailed with the shared dream of restoring their country. Momonosuke sat rigidly on the boat. His goal was Wano, and he wouldn't rest until his homeland was restored. Locke suddenly felt a wave of revulsion wash over him. He spotted the small boat approaching. "Head to the cabin," Locke instructed Yamato. Though puzzled by the sudden order, Yamato didn't question him. She simply turned and disappeared into the ship's interior. Whoosh, star. In a blink, Locke vanished from the pirate ship and materialized on the small boat. His eyes narrowed with disgust as he took in the 3 passengers. Anyone who's seen the anime knows how awful these 3 are. Just watch how I deal with them. Who are you?" Momonosuke stammered, startled by Locke's abrupt appearance. Locke ignored the child, drawing his sword and unleashing a flurry of slashes. In an instant, the tendons in Momonosuke, Kinemon, and Kenjuro's hands and legs were severed. Blood poured from their wounds, staining the deck. "Aya! It hurts!" Momonosuke wailed, collapsing to the deck in agony. Locke stalked over and grabbed Momonosuke by the neck. He squeezed, slowly increasing the pressure. The boy's face flushed crimson, his eyes bulging as he struggled to breathe. Just as Momonosuke was on the verge of blacking out, Locke released his grip. The boy gasped for air, only for Locke to tighten his grip again. He repeated this torture for over an hour, Momonosuke clinging to consciousness as he teetered on the edge of death. Finally, Locke flung him to the deck. He then plunged his knife into the boy's thigh. A geyser of blood erupted as Momonosuke screamed. "Aya!" Locke continued to stab at the boy's thigh, another half-hour passing before Momonosuke finally lost consciousness. Locke splashed seawater on his face, jolting him awake. Then, with a swift stroke, Locke severed Momonosuke's entire right hand. Thwack, star. The severed hand flew into the air in a shower of blood, landing in front of Kinemon and Kenjuro. Before the 2 could cry out, Locke's sword flashed again, and 2 bright red tongues were sent flying. The 2 men clutched their mouths in agony, writhing on the deck. Locke then turned his attention back to Momonosuke, severing his remaining arm with another precise strike. Momonosuke opened his mouth to scream, but Locke silenced him with a single blow. His tongue followed the arms into the bloody mess. The scene was grotesque. The entire boat was awash in crimson, littered with severed limbs and tongues. The 3 victims lay on the deck, their faces contorted in silent agony. Locke approached Momonosuke, who stared up at him, his eyes wide with terror. He didn't know this man, didn't understand why he was being subjected to this torment. Locke looked down at him, his gaze pitiless. Many people wanted you dead, and I want to kill you myself. So you won't get off that easy. That with that, Locke brought his knife down, severing the boy's right leg. He followed with the left, two bright red limbs tumbled to the deck, blood spurting from the wounds. Momonosuke was now a torso and a head. Momonosuke wept, tears of pure, unadulterated fear. Locke watched him, then reached into the system space and pulled out a vial. This was a reward he'd received for 3 years of daily check-ins. If he applied this potion, Momonosuke wouldn't faint, but it wouldn't heal his wounds either. As the potion dripped onto the boy's body, Momonosuke, who had been on the verge of passing out, felt a jolt of energy surge through his brain. Thwack, star. Locke plunged his knife into the boy's stomach, tearing a gaping hole. The inside was a mess of bright red, permeated with the sickening smell of blood. Blood poured out, but the potion prevented Momonosuke from dying or even losing consciousness. Even if his heart were torn out, Momonosuke would still feel the excruciating pain of being alive. The effects of the medicine would last for a full day. Locke's blade burst into flames, and he began to sear the organs within Momonosuke's stomach. Sizzle. Crackle, starred at a nauseating stench filled the air, a mixture of blood and burning flesh. Momonosuke, Kinemon, and Kanjuro gagged, their stomachs churning. Locke reached into Momonosuke's belly and pulled out a bloody length of intestine. He shoved the charred, smoking mess into the boy's mouth. Momonosuke choked, retching. Tears streamed down his face. But he couldn't move, save for his head. Finally, Locke forced the intestine down his throat. Blood trickled from Momonosuke's mouth, some from his severed tongue, some from the ruined intestine. There was a hole in Momonosuke's stomach. The intestine disappeared from his mouth, only to reappear through the gaping wound. Then, Locke pulled out the boy's organs one by one, forcing each into Momonosuke's mouth. With each removal, there was blood and white smoke. Under Momonosuke's terrified gaze, each organ disappeared into his mouth, flowing from his mouth to the hole in his stomach. Momonosuke ate all of his organs. Then, Locke slashed him a few more times, leaving a latticework of cuts across his body. Momonosuke wanted to scream, but his tongue was gone. He could only twist his neck in silent agony. Locke showed no mercy to the three throughout this extended torture. As time passed, night fell. Back on the pirate ship, Yamato had been cooped up in the cabin all day, battling a machine. Yamato glared at the contraption before her, a claw machine filled with adorable stuffed animals. Her eyes widened in frustration. She gritted her teeth, glaring at the broken machine. If it weren't for the words printed on it, she would have happily smashed it to pieces with her club. She'd been trying to win a doll for hours, but without success. Now, she was fuming, staring down the claw machine. I don't care what it takes. I'm winning one today. Yamato declared, her eyes burning with determination. As she spoke, the claw whirred to life, descending slowly. Finally, it snagged a white rabbit plushie. Yes. Yamato watched as the claw grabbed the cute rabbit, excitedly pounding on the glass, but as Yamato hit the glass, the force caused the claw to sway. Just as it reached the prize chute, the white rabbit tumbled from the claw's grasp. Thud. Yamato, seeing this, punched the machine in fury and started grabbing the dolls directly. As Yamato left, there was a note on the ground that read, "Please don't use violence." Chapter 70 The Human Nature of War, Dirty and Noble. You are listening at novelfull.audio. When Locke finished cleaning the blood off himself, he dumped the bodies of Momonosuke, Kinemon, and the others into the ocean. The blood quickly attracted fish, and they swarmed the corpses, turning it into a feeding frenzy. Locke went back to the pirate ship and wrecked the boat. He headed towards the ship, but Yamato wasn't there. He made his way to the cabin. Seeing the shattered metal and glass on the floor, Locke knew exactly what had happened. Damn, she's a real live wire. Didn't she realize it opened from the back? Locke muttered. Inside one of the rooms, Yamato was playing with dolls, arranging them on the bed and table like a little girl. Knock, 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 Locke rapped on the door. Yamato heard the knocking and went to answer it. She opened the door, and they stared at each other. After a minute, Yamato shifted uncomfortably, but held Locke's gaze. "What's up so late?" she asked. "Just checking if you were asleep." "You eat yet?" Locke replied, still looking into her eyes. "Not yet." Yamato had been glued to that claw machine all day. Now that she thought about it, she was starving. "Let's grab something," Locke said, turning and heading off to make some food. Yamato followed him to the kitchen. Locke grabbed a kitchen knife and with a flash of the blade, vegetables and meat were chopped in a single stroke. Yamato washed the vegetables and the pot, then added the ingredients. Little flame. Locke didn't bother with a regular stove. He used his own fire, cooking the ingredients instantly. As soon as the seasonings were added, a delicious aroma filled the kitchen. "Smells amazing," Yamato said, swallowing hard. "Grab some plates," Locke said, looking at Yamato who looked like a little kid eager for a snack. Soon, they were enjoying their first dinner at sea at a table on deck. A candle flickered between them, supplemented by the pirate ship's special lights. The dark sea surrounded them. The moonlight made the water look beautiful, yet strange, unknown, and a little scary. Yamato took a bite of the meat, and the flavors of chili and savory meat exploded in her mouth. "Wow, this is so good!" Yamato exclaimed. They chatted about life at sea. Yamato didn't ask about Locke's activities earlier, brushing them off as unimportant. It was like seeing trash and throwing it away. They spent the night sharing their first dinner at sea. The next day, the morning sun shone across the water, revealing a small island not far from the pirate ship. System, daily sign-in, *ding, *. Congratulations. You received a music box. The pirate ship headed towards the island, with Locke and Yamato enjoying the sea breeze and getting ready to explore. A dry wasteland covered in yellow dirt and littered with bones. The place was desolate, ravaged by war that had destroyed a once happy island. In a small wooden shack, 11 people huddled, 10 children and a young woman who looked only 17 or 18. "Sister, I'm so hungry," a skeletal little boy cried, looking up at the woman with hollow eyes. The other children joined in, their cries of hunger echoing in the shack. The woman's face was pale, her black hair matted, and she was painfully thin. Her name was Remilia Ellie. Remilia looked at the children. They were all orphans, just like her. When the orphanage was destroyed in the war, she had taken responsibility for them, but the war had dragged on for 3 years, and food was scarce. She'd almost given up, but she remembered how the orphanage had taken her in and raised her. She decided to lead the children out of the war zone. They had started with 50 children, but now only 10 remained. 40 had died in the last 3 years. Remilia gritted her teeth and headed out, her mind made up. "I never thought I'd find such a beautiful woman in this war-torn hellhole." A fat man with huge ears pawed Remilia's face. He ran his tongue over her cheek, then reached for her. Remilia closed her eyes, tears streaming down her face. To save the children, she was sacrificing herself. *Ryup*. The man tore her clothes. A few drops of blood and tears fell onto the dirt. A pirate ship landed on the island. Locke and Yamato stepped ashore, immediately noticing the desolate landscape. "There was a war here," Yamato observed. "Yeah, and some messed up stuff went down," Locke said grimly. "Where there was war, the worst of humanity came out." As they walked, they ran into some soldiers. Yamato quickly took them out with a blast of Conqueror's Haki, and they continued towards a crude wooden house. Inside were 10 hungry, unconscious children, gaunt and weak, barely clinging to life. A voice carried from nearby. Several soldiers were dragging a girl by the arm. "Quit playing coy. You're just a dirty object. Don't think we don't know you broads sell your bodies for food to survive in this war zone." A soldier sneered at Remilia. Remilia's eyes were lifeless. Her face was flushed, and her legs trembled, as if she'd been hurt. She clutched a bag of food, what she traded her body for. It was for the children. The soldier tore her already tattered clothes further. The clothes immediately ripped apart, revealing only white light. Dear readers, none of you could see what was inside. The soldiers moved in to take advantage of her. Suddenly, a figure appeared. Thunder Bagua. Yamato couldn't stand it anymore. She sent the scum flying with a single blow, boom, starred at a powerful gust of wind erupted, and Yamato stood between Remilia and the soldiers. Behind a rock, a gaunt man tried to sneak away. He'd planned to take his turn after the soldiers were done, but Yamato had arrived. Just as he was about to escape, Locke appeared in front of him and broke his limbs. Aya! Locke grabbed the man by the head and dragged him to Yamato and Remilia. Locke ripped off the man's clothes and threw them to Remilia. Remilia looked at them both without fear, as if waiting for her fate. Locke looked at Remilia. You live to survive. To survive this war. You live for what you want to protect. It's not about being noble or dirty. It's about living. You can only worry about that stuff after you survive. You gotta live first. Locke's words might have been for Remilia or the skinny man. Remilia looked at Locke, tears in her eyes. You sold your body not for yourself, but for the children. Without you, where would they be? That's absolutely noble. Those who start wars for personal gain and don't care about life. They're the ones who are dirty. Locke continued. Just because your body is dirty doesn't mean your heart is. A noble soul in a dirty body. How many people stayed pure during a war? Just stay alive. I don't think it's dirty. People who haven't been through war might not get it, but those who have will understand. Go to the kids. And, I left you some food. Locke and Yamato left, leaving Remilia in tears. Nearby, a man in a dark green cloak watched them go. Maybe that's what war is. That's this chaotic, messed up world. That's why I created the Revolutionary Army.